So I'm sitting here in Chicago right now, and I want to make a very somber video for you about my brutal journey in accepting the halo effect. And what I mean by that is my journey in going from feeling like I should just be real all the time to, in effect, realizing that, yes, I have to be authentic and I have to be real, but I have to do so through the context of always creating a halo effect, at least, and here's the key to it, in any situation where there is an exchange of value. Now, what that means is that I shouldn't have to worry about the halo effect with my regular friends, okay? If it's my knucklehead friends and we're gonna go have some yucks, then I don't need to worry about a halo effect. Likewise, if you're talking to, say, your mother or your father, you don't need to worry about a halo effect. Anytime that you're just interacting with someone where there's no exchange of value whatsoever, there's no need to worry about a halo effect. The challenge is getting confused about who your yuck friends are, or say someone like your parents who accept you unconditionally because you're their genetic offspring, versus anybody who there's an exchange of value. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's say it's a romantic partner. Your romantic partner in many ways is your best friend. You're actually tighter with your romantic partner than you are your yuck friends. I like how I've created that word to be emphatic that it's your yuck friends. And likewise, you're also probably tighter with people who you do business with in many ways than your yuck friends. Again, I keep using the word yuck friends to emphasize that there's no exchange of value whatsoever. It's just you having some laughs, just bonding and sharing stories about life, including your lowest moments. So in effect, you're gonna feel closer with your romantic partner, you're gonna feel closer with people who you work with, and in my case, funny enough, I feel in many ways closer with my fans, people who actually follow my content, than I do with my yuck friends. And the reason why you're gonna feel closer with your romantic partner or people who you do business with, or say you ever become a social media influencer or a celebrity or have status of any type, the reason you're gonna feel closer with your fans is that initially, when they see a halo effect in you and they look up to you, they're actually gonna be nicer to you than your regular friends. In effect, because they're gaining value from you in some capacity, they're gonna be nicer to you than your regular friends who they're not gaining any value. So as a result of that, it's actually gonna create an illusion to you that these are your more real friends, and your yuck friends that are not as pandering to you, they're not they're actually not as tight with you. But see, here's the main difference. Let's say that you're someone who's in a romantic relationship, right? You may care about your romantic partner a lot, but that is still the success or failure of your DNA to reproduce with someone who is attractive. The success or failure of your DNA is tied to that. Likewise, let's say that you work with people. Again, the success or failure of their DNA, their evolution, their biology is tied to you being somebody who's good to work with. Likewise, if someone's a fan, they're probably willing to go above and beyond to help you out in your life in many, many ways. And so they're gonna treat you better than a normal person would treat you. And as a result of that, you're sitting there thinking, oh, they're just very, very nice. We have this great friendship. But you're not realizing that they're treating you like that because they're getting some exchange of value from you. And so the halo effect, in effect, what it is it's something that you manufacture, which allows you to come across as having a ton of value. And here's the key to the halo effect, because I've talked about this in many other videos and I've kind of glossed over it here. I've just assumed you know what it means. But the basic idea of the halo effect is that if somebody looks up to you, they do so probably because of this effect that you've created, this sort of larger than life effect that you've done things deliberately to make it where their selective focus, you can look this up, called their reticular activation system, their selective focus is gonna really zone in on you, okay? That's what the halo effect is. And you do this with great intention and you do it deliberately, okay? You do this very, very deliberately. So understanding that, knowing that this halo effect is something that you manufacture, what I'd like to do next is give you some very clear examples of the halo effect and the importance of manufacturing that halo effect. But what I really want to do is I want to change any beliefs that you have about this from a place where you might feel resentful of it, where you're like, why would I have to do that? Why can't everybody just like me like my yuck friends like me? Why can't they be like that? I want to shift that to where you actually view it as a responsibility on your end, where if you're not manufacturing that halo effect, you're the one who's the problem. It's a you problem, not a they problem. And I feel like once you understand that, your life gets a lot better. So in this video, we'll talk about what is the halo effect. We'll talk about how to manufacture the halo effect. We'll talk about why it's important that you accept this as important to manufacture. And then what we'll wrap up with is actually going even beyond the halo effect and really getting to another level where someone who knows you at a very deep level, you wouldn't even need to worry about that at all, and they would still want to exchange value with you because they see you at your truest self. I think it's easy to forget how common the creation of a halo effect is in our society. For example, some people will choose to wear things like makeup that might take 2 hours to put on, or high heels that are very, very uncomfortable, or even to blow dry their hair, which could take a couple hours and even do damage to their hair just in order to get ready. And when you think about it, maybe you've met somebody, you met them out, you had a wild night together, and you decide to take the party back to your place, and you wake up the next morning, and the makeup has come off, and the hair doesn't look the same, and there's no high heels, and maybe even the different shaving on the body parts has started to get a little prickly. And of course, you're still excited to meet that person, but you realize this is not the exact same person that you're seeing when they've manufactured their halo effect. Now, in addition to that, many people, their greatest fear is actually having their halo effect removed from them. For example, if you're somebody who would lose reputation because you're known as just going home with anybody, let's say that you're someone who's in that kind of life situation, then your greatest fear is having your halo effect removed by being called somebody who's easy. And it can literally be terrifying for people to appear easy if you're someone whose reputation would go down by being perceived that way. So if you think about it, there's many people in the world who will spend hours a day putting on makeup, high heels, blow drying their hair, not appearing to be easy, and so on and so forth, because if they appear to be easy and have a low buying price, if they don't have that sort of magical appearance to them, then they lose their halo effect. Think about how common that is. Other people might wear a suit with broad shoulders or try to come across as being a leader, and so on and so forth. There's many different ways that a halo effect is created. It's very, very important to do that. In a nightclub, for example, if the nightclub isn't full, they'll actually cordon off a big chunk of the nightclub to make it appear full. Or outside of the nightclub, they'll make a big line even when it's not full inside yet. Think about that for a minute. You run a nightclub, and even though it's not very full inside, you'll let people trickle in slowly because you want that club to appear popular. Or even if the club is only half full, you'd think you'd like all that extra space, right? Hey, we're not all stuck in there like sardines, shoulder to shoulder. But they'd actually rather put people in shoulder to shoulder in order to keep up that halo effect. Nightclubs are also very common for this by rejecting a lot of people. And by rejecting a lot of people, what winds up happening is that people who buy tables to get in the nightclub will pay $2,000 or $5,000. And it's funny to me because oftentimes people go to that nightclub and they want to get in for free. Check out how funny this is. They want to get in for free to the nightclub. And they say, oh, this nightclub is so superficial. They won't just let me in for free. They're trying to charge me $5,000 to get a table. And yet, who's the superficial one? There's plenty of nightclubs that they could go to, like in Los Angeles. We have Barney's Beanery. We have the Saddle Ranch. We have the Cliftons. Those are incredibly fun clubs that you could go to. Barney's Beanery has pool tables. It has video games. The Saddle Ranch has a bowl that you can ride on. The Clifton has a tiki bar upstairs, and it has this cool little swing dance floor. They're crazy fun. They're a lot more fun usually than the more exclusive clubs that have the halo effect. And yet the people who go to the front and then cry, this club is superficial, it's filled with douches, I don't like this club because they won't let me in my view, they're kind of playing sour grapes because they chose to go to the most exclusive club they could and it didn't wind up panning out for them. So you'll generally see that in life you have many different people or institutions or organizations that create a halo effect. And then you have other people that can't be a part of it, and then they'll usually try to down talk them and downplay them because they can't be a part of it. Again, we could even see this with something like a frat or a sorority or any group where they put people through a process to be able to get in, or anything where people have to kind of jump through hoops in order to be a part of it, which then increases the perceived value. Now, once we understand this halo effect, again, the major distinction is realizing that if you're running a nightclub, for example, and you don't want $5,000 as an entry fee, you just want people to come in and drink some brewskis, drink some beers, then you don't need to worry about that halo effect. But if you'd like to actually get $5,000 for it, then you do want to worry about that halo effect. Likewise, let's say that you'd like to date a very, very attractive romantic partner. Well, when you're dating someone who's very, very attractive, what are you doing in essence? You are monopolizing their options. You're saying, you're no longer going to be open to all these other prospective partners. You're going to cut off all those options just to be with me. I would like you not to be my yuck friend, but I would like you to cut off any romantic options that you have with other people. Maybe you're someone who other people would fly around, or somebody who other people would wine and dine, or maybe you'd like to meet someone who's just more physically attractive or more confident or funny. But I'm going to get you to cut off all those options. You're going to cut them all off to be with me. Yeah, just with me. I'm the one, right? Or again, if you're saying to somebody, instead of spending $5,000 on a new television, instead of spending $5,000 on rent, you're going to spend $5,000 to get into my club. So again, we're just making this distinction. I love this word yuck, friends. I'm saying it almost to be a little bit dramatic, to draw your attention to the distinction between being just friends with somebody for some yucks versus actually having an exchange of value. And I'm not saying that friendship or exchange of value, that one is better than the other. I'm simply saying, understand which one it is that you're doing. Just know which one it is. And once you know which one it is, then you can say to yourself, is it important that I spin up this halo effect, or is the halo effect irrelevant because I'm not in a situation where I would be judged? And here's the main key to audit that. It's very simple. Am I requiring this other person to give up other options that they have that they could do with their resources? Am I, in effect, hoping that they will give those up to invest their time, their DNA and offspring, or their emotional energy, time capital, emotional capital, or whatever else? Am I hoping that they'll do that with me? Once you've made a decision that I'm hoping they'll do that with me, that's when you say, okay, I accept then that I want to have that halo effect. So once we've made that distinction, let's talk a little bit more about how the halo effect works and how to manufacture that halo effect. And like I said, from there, I want you to really understand why it is important that you accept this and you view it as a you issue, not a them issue, and being salty that they need that, but rather realize that it is a part of human interaction and your responsibility to maintain. So there's many different myths in our society that, in my view, are meant to hold you back. One of those myths could be that rich people are scumbags, and if you become rich, it means you're unethical. Another one would be that by eating the 4 basic food groups that you're actually being very healthy, which of course is basically just feeding different huge food industries. So generally what you'll see is that many of our cultural myths are designed so that other people at the top of the pyramid can benefit and that you, in effect, run as a battery. Well, one of those myths, in my view, is actually that you shouldn't have to be in any way thinking about creating some kind of halo effect around yourself. That if you're just a nice person, everybody's going to completely see this. They're going to totally get it. And if they don't get it, they're just big jerks. Like you wouldn't even want them to be around. That's a myth designed to hold your life back. Now, let me put it to you this way, okay? So we're gonna look at my product that I've created, and I wanna show you the amount of work that I put into it, and then I wanna show you the amount of work that I spent putting a halo effect around it. So the actual coaching product that I created, I myself, in fact, I'm my own best client. I worked from 2002, now I'm recording this in 2020, 18 years, I went and practiced what it is that I teach for 4 or 5 hours a day, almost 7 days a week. And I coached it about 150 days a year so that I could actually transfer it to other people. And I coached it in the hardest environment possible because I spent my life trying to learn social skills, and then I would take other people and get them to practice those social skills in real life interactions. So in effect, I'm not just hiding in a seminar room. I love seminars, I love them to death, but I would also do the hardest possible environment, which is take people out and put my ideas to test, both with me demonstrating it, but me also getting other people able to replicate my results on the spot. There's very few teachers in the world that would have put that much effort and time and love and tender care into their product that they're selling. I'm actually not sure of any that exists in any field, to be honest. I'm sure there are, but I don't know of any personally. So have I put time into what I teach by iterating it and cross-referencing it with many other people that are good at what I do and seeing other people getting results? Sure, of course I have. But even in spite of that, I can tell you for a fact that if I were to think that that was enough, I would have to be out of my mind. Out of my mind. I would be flat broke. I wouldn't be able to dedicate my life to working on my craft because I'd be working a job that probably wasn't very good. And as a result of that, I could offer less value to the world. I get that. You may think that you would watch my content if I didn't put a halo effect into it. Let me tell you something. Let me speak very bluntly here. Anthony Robbins, one of the most amazing people at making a halo effect on this earth. I mean, Tony Robbins, in effect, is looked at as a living deity by a lot of people in the world. He is incredible at making a halo effect. Well, you've probably heard of Anthony Robbins, a guy who I really look up to. Have you ever heard of Richard Bandler, the creator of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP? At least that's my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong about the history there, but that's my understanding. Or at least one of the main creators of NLP. Well, Anthony Robbins, much of what he taught for a lot of his career was based on the work of NLP. It was sort of building upon that. Do you know who Richard Bandler is? Now, let me ask you another question. Who would you rather take a course with? Would you rather take the really intense, super duper deep, detail-oriented NLP course with Richard Bandler? Or would you rather do that course with Anthony Robbins? Now, what if I told you this? My understanding is Anthony Robbins has courses that can even cost for one-on-one coaching $1 million. Or he'll have a platinum course that's around $65,000. What would you rather get for free? Would you rather get the $65,000 course for free? Or would you rather get the Richard Bandler's course for a couple $1,000s for free, right? Anthony Robbins is worth $65,000. Richard Bandler's probably worth a couple thousand. Well, here's the thing. What does the fact that it's priced at a certain point really mean to the value? It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but even when you hear it, you'll probably gravitate towards the more expensive one, the more popular one, or whatever it is. It's simply human instinct. This is massive, okay? So many different ways that I'll create a halo effect. I think you're aware of them. One is that if I'm shooting a seminar, I make sure that I tighten the people that are there in the room so that the room appears full. Anybody who doesn't do that, I think, is out of their mind. So it's a simple thing that I can do. Another thing that I do is I like to do my videos in a beautiful location, and I do it at a time where, because I'm shooting in a beautiful location, it adds a sense of urgency to the video. So I'm in a beautiful location, there's a sense of urgency, and because I feel that my concepts are very important, I'm likely to communicate with you in a way that those concepts are important. I've also made sure to show that our brand is a worldwide brand and done many other things. Now, by the way, like anybody else, I've also had fissures in the halo effect that I've created. Usually that's when I work with other people. They'll go sideways and it makes it harder to maintain that halo effect. Lessons, many lessons learned there, which I've shared in other videos. But for the most part, you generally speaking want to be creating that halo effect. Now, what does that do? What is the cause of that? The cause of the halo effect that I've created means that I have a chance both to perhaps have you as one of my clients, which I very much hope to do, but in addition to that, it also means that you're more likely to listen to this very free video and to pay attention to it and to value the content. So if I don't make this content in a way that shows that I value it, what are the chances that you're going to value it? So what you're doing in effect with the creation of this halo effect is you're doing what I would call RAS sucking, or you could maybe in a more appropriate way call it RAS focusing, so we can get away from the word sucking. So if we're doing RAS focusing, what we're doing is that your RAS would normally be just absolutely all over the place. Your RAS is really just everywhere, right? And what that means, you could be looking at your environment around you, you could be staring at, hearing some other conversation, you could be looking at any multitude of competing stimulus, right? So you remember we said one of the rules of you're not one of my yuck friends, okay? You're someone who perhaps I want something. What do I want is in this moment, I'd like to have your full attention to the extent that I can get it, right? Because I'm asking you to pay attention to me and to zone out all of these other competing stimulus. I'm asking you for a moment of the most valuable resource you have in your life, which is your time. Okay, your time that you could use for anything and that ultimately you have a finite amount of. So that being the case, what I want to do is I want to create that halo effect to get a moment of your time, okay? And in the process of that, we want to also be increasing the halo effect, because then you'll focus on the advice, and if you use the advice and your life changes in an amazing way, now you'll value it even more. So again, we have the halo effect and we have the real value. Now, sometimes, for example, you have a celebrity, and what entertainment companies have figured out is you could just pluck any person out of a trailer park and put a bunch of big lights on them, manufacture a crowd around them, buy them airplay on the radio, and you can turn almost anybody with mediocre talent into a celebrity. And so that's where they'll say Hollywood kind of spits people up and chews them out. They'll pluck someone out of obscurity, they'll put them in, they can purchase a giant crowd, they can purchase a studio, they can purchase the big lights, they can purchase the radio play to get social proof, they can purchase the views on a social media platform, and so you can make anybody have a halo effect. And that's why a lot of mainstream popular music, it's not always the best music. Some of it is. I have friends actually that do pop music that are huge, and I think their music is really good. So it's not an either or, but you want to have that halo effect of, say, example with pop music, you want to have amazing pop music, but you also want to have the amazing halo effect. But again, you can make somebody famous just with a halo effect by putting money into it. You actually can. You just put social proof, money into it, cheering fans. It's not actually that hard. But see, what I like to do personally is I like to create a situation where once the halo effect pulls someone in, there's real value there, because in my mind, that's how you create longevity. The halo effect creates that initial desire to learn more about you, and then real value, in my mind, is what creates longevity. It's what creates a longer career. It's what'll get you through your career during the ups and downs of your reputation and whatnot, because you actually have something to offer. The challenge is some people focus on just halo effect, some people focus just on their actual product quality, and in my view, I think you do both. I want you to understand that everything that I've taught you over the years is designed to help you with that halo effect to a decent extent. Now, what does that mean? Let's say, for example, you're going to go into a bar or a club. So if you're somebody who has very low status ways of communicating, let's say that it's in your vocal tonality, your eye contact, or your body language, that low status eye contact where you're looking away, or maybe you're trying too hard to look, I've covered this in many videos, it takes away from your halo effect. If your body language is off-putting, maybe it's too much low status, or you're trying too hard, again, we want to be in that sweet spot, I've taught that over many videos, again, removes your halo effect. If your voice doesn't project well, if it doesn't have variation in cadence, if it has uptalk and rapport-seeking tonality instead of a positive dominant tonality, that also lowers your halo effect. I've taught this for many years. Likewise, you see me things like, I'll teach you to be self-amusing in your humor rather than reaction-seeking. I'll also teach you not to get hung up on talking to one person. I'll say talk to a lot of people, which builds up a great deal of social proof. That way, people can see you're very popular and that your attention is very valuable. So understand that everything that I've taught you over the years is to build that halo effect. All those basic level elements of social dynamics that we've taught, that's all to build your halo effect. Now, we could take it even deeper than that. let's just think about the general energy that you're carrying yourself with. When you're electric, when you're just enjoying yourself in whatever environment it is, and you're in your world, and you are feeding off of your own self-amusement, your own good vibes, the own amazing feelings that you have in your body, people sense that electric energy from you, and they will crave your approval because they want to be around that great energy. And so what winds up happening is that the reticular activation system changes. And here's the deal there. So let's take somebody like me. I'm moderate height, I'm going bald, I have pasty skin, I'm chubby right now, I have a high voice, but I'm very confident I can be pretty funny at times. So it depends what you're going to focus on in anything. For example, are you going to be focusing on the fact that I'm kind of short, or the fact that I'm not this perfect looking guy, or are you going to be focusing on the fact that I'm kind of funny and confident? Your reticular activation system is going to determine which thing that you're focusing on. So if I'm carrying myself the right way, if somebody likes me, they're going to be focused on those good qualities that I have, and they're going to ignore the bad qualities. But likewise, if I'm carrying myself in a way where I'm off in my body language or eye contact or self-amusement or the place I'm coming from, they're going to tend to focus on the less good qualities. So that's something in general in social interactions, and really that's just the basic level way that you carry yourself. That's going to increase your halo effect. And as soon as you're reacting too much to your environment and you're becoming either too high status or trying too hard to look high status, which makes you look desperate as a ploy when you're really low status, or if you're coming across as low status, or if you're simply just desperate for that approval of your environment and you're not in your own flow, all of these things are messing up your halo effect. And in a deep, longer-term romantic relationship, if you start to lose that and someone who you're with senses it, that's going to kill it even more. And that's where you'll see in a romantic relationship where what starts happening is that the person starts to take you for granted, and here's what you'll notice. All of a sudden, let's say that you've done 10 good things and 10 things that were not so good, whereas before they would have ignored the things that were not so good. Maybe you were a bit late, or maybe you're kind of annoying. Maybe you didn't take a shower. They would ignore those things and they'd focus on the good things that you're doing. Maybe you open the door for them or something. They focus on that. All of a sudden, as you're losing that vibe, you're losing that internal status, the halo effect starts to shift, and they have what's called an RAS flip, a reticular activation system flip, and they will no longer be able to perceive your good qualities, and they'll only be able to see your bad qualities. This is why, for example, if you like my content or enjoy it, you might have noticed that you'll read comments where people will say, I don't like this content. And you're thinking, how come I like this content so much and they don't? The reason why is because the way that I presented my halo effect didn't connect to them. Now, to be fair, you can't make a halo effect for everybody. You got to choose your audience, right? So I choose my audience deliberately. I understand I'm alienating a percentage of people, but I've chosen my audience with intention. I've curated, in effect, a halo effect for them. And then from that point, I understand that if I maintain it, you can actually see the content and let it sink in. And for those people that simply can't see it, I can't connect to them. So understand that even that base level ability to connect, to be magnetic, to get someone to pay attention at all, has to do with this element of the halo effect. Again, not with your yuck yuck friends. If I'm your yuck yuck friend and I'm just like, well, maybe that's cool either way, but you see my point. If I'm doing that, you don't care. You're just like, because I'm not asking for your money. I'm not asking for your attention, really. I'm not asking for you to combine your DNA with mine for your offspring. There's not a lot of that going on. But when it's something for an exchange of value, simply realize that the person's reticular activation system is designed to shield them from things that aren't helping them. And so if the reticular activation system is not seeing that halo effect, it's designed to protect them. And it is designed to draw them like a moth to a flame to whatever it is that does have that halo effect, okay? So whether you're looking at an NBA basketball game and there's a big crowd outside and everyone's fighting for the tickets and trying to scalp tickets, and then inside there's the big lights and the crowd and it's magnifying what in effect is just a sports game. Whether it's a big rock star, and again, it's just someone going, ooh, 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 what I feel, ooh. It's just someone singing, but again, that halo effect makes people scream, makes people cry, makes people go crazy. They can pass out and faint. Whatever it is, simply be aware of it and realize that ultimately it is your responsibility to manufacture, maintain. No different than sweeping your porch, no different than if you're shaving or brushing your hair. This halo effect is your responsibility for you to maintain. Now, I was sitting in a seminar the other day, and I was right in the middle of doing a sale, and a guy who I'm friends with, right in the middle of the sale, he gets up, and he says, "Hey man, see you later, bro, gotta go." And then even on his way out of the room, he starts dapping a bunch of other people in the room who he's saying bye to and interrupting the focus of the sale. Now, let's think about that even with selling. With a sale, you need the attention on yourself. I mean, think about this with any celebrity, with any art piece, with anything of value that is sold for a premium price, there is a reticular activation focus on the person. That's just a fact. We call that the halo effect. Anything that's going to sell is going to have that. Straight up, point blank, period. Now, my buddy, who's like, "Yo, dude, peacing out, gotta go. Yo, later, boys." I'm like, why did you just waste thousands of dollars when you could have just left 3 minutes later, or you could have just left quietly? What, if you're supposed to be my friend, why would you do that? And of course, his response was, "Hey, you've got a great product. Why would anyone care if I walked out in the middle of a sale?" It's primitive. That's why. It is evolutionary. This is millions and millions of years in evolution. If your romantic partner doesn't have that selective focus on you, I mean, think about your romantic partner. If you don't see them walk in the room and zone in on them, at some point there's going to be somebody else that walks in the room who you feel that way towards, and you'll have what's known as a wandering eye. So you've got to make a decision if you're going to be one of these delusional people who resist this and says, "No, I'm not doing it." And if you are going to be one of those people, then what you've got to ask yourself is it because you feel like you don't know how? Is it because it scares you? Are you afraid? Well, if it scares you, what I'd say is, you got me. I got your back. In fact, I've got your back so much, I'm doing everything in my power to hold your attention so that I can help you to rectify the situation. So let's get serious about it. Now, I've given you tools in this video and many other videos in order to get this handled. And what I would say is this: you're going to be one of those people who accepts it, or one of those people who declines it and gives the whole douche and realness explanation. Anything where you can claim a fake moral high ground and how people should just get you. Anything that could allow you to be narcissistic and egocentric, that the world should just worship you despite that you're not doing these things, okay? Any narcissistic, egocentric, selfish belief that you have, or simply fear-based belief that you have, you can go with that if you want, okay? I'm getting pumped up here. Sorry, it's a trigger for me. Really, you can go with that if you want, but you see how it makes me a bit mad? You want to know why it makes me a bit mad when I think of it? Because I used to be the same way. I had the same problem. And I had to get slapped and slapped and slapped metaphorically in order to wake up to it. Now, the thing that really helped me was I had a buddy, and he's got a business that does around $100 million a year in sales. And he calls this the fairy dust. And he was to the point where anytime that there wasn't that fairy dust of a halo effect, he didn't even want to waste his time doing any kind of business deal because he understood that it was, for the most part, in many ways pointless. So being around him helped me to accept it, but it was also having different business partners, romantic partners, just straight take me for granted and walk out on me, or me going and just working my tail off on a different product or program, and if I failed to create that effect on it, having it simply not sell. I've also seen it with friends of mine who I work with, and they'll fail to create that effect, and I'll see how they have these incredible products, incredible programs that have tremendous value inside of them, and yet in spite of that, they simply fail to create the halo effect, and as a result of that, they don't sell. And I see the work and the blood, sweat, and tears that they put in to not get a result, or I'll see incredibly nice people whose romantic partners just walk out on them, or who go out and they don't get appreciated because they simply don't acknowledge this. So again, we can bemoan the state of human evolution, and we can bemoan the state of human nature, and we can do our one-person protest against this if we want, or we can simply say, look, if you're putting on pants in the morning, if you're shaving, I don't shave, but if I get a beard trim once a month, or if you're brushing your teeth, the halo effect is just something like that. That's all that it is. You don't need to make it into more than that. You don't sit there doing a one-person protest on brushing your teeth, do you? The thing that happens is that this is a little bit more complex. It takes a little bit more focus, but once you understand it, it becomes an extension of that. And unlike just brushing your teeth, which kind of just allows you to get by day to day, you're kind of at a baseline, what this allows you to do is go to a much higher level, and instead of just kind of fitting in, it allows you to actually stand out. In doing so, you can build an incredible life, you can make incredible amounts of money, you can date incredible people, You can put yourself in incredible networking opportunities, and ultimately what it comes down to is a simple distinction. Just simply understanding who it is with which you're hoping to exchange some value, and who it is that are basically just your fun yuck friends. Once you can make that simple acceptance, okay, these are my yuck friends, my family, the people who love me just because I exist, and these are people who are exchanging value. Once you have that simple understanding and you can respect it, you're ultimately coming from a place of deep empathy for other people, understanding where they're coming from and meeting them where they're at. So I'm going to posit to you something that you probably never thought of, and that's that the extent to which you have a halo effect with somebody is the extent to which you can create a synergistic-based relationship. And the extent to which you allow that halo effect to dissolve is actually the extent to which the relationship is going to have potentially major problems. And I've seen this for years. Again, probably why I speak so passionately about this is because it took me years to accept it, and it really bothered me for a long time. So, as an example, there's been times where I'm working with somebody, and I realize at a certain point, they just don't see me the same way. And it may be that I kind of just revealed the magic a little bit too much. So, initially when that person worked with me, they would usually pursue me desperately to work with them. And usually for the first year or two, again, there's that desperation to work together. Now, what is so good about that desperation to work together? Well, let's say that we're gonna, I mean, as an example, let's say we're gonna go shoot a video in the cold, late into the night here in Chicago. That person would be inclined to come and put their best effort into shooting an amazing video late into the night. So as a result, we can create a higher amount of value together. And let's say that I have a leadership to where I understand how to shoot a video like this. I mean, I'm just making this up. There was nobody who denied me for a video shoot tonight, but I'm just giving an example, hypothetical. Let's say, for example, that I have a deep understanding of how to shoot a video, and I can lead it in an amazing direction. If you just kind of follow my lead for a minute, we can go to the promised land. It's going to be so awesome. Well, then in that case, we're not going to have to argue about every little thing. So now we can work later into the night. We can actually have a sense of leadership and direction without squabbling. And even when the video comes out, we can be really excited about it. There's a lot of value that gets created there, right? So there's a respect for leadership, there's a synergy, there's a more effort and engagement that's put into it. I mean, look, it's the same thing in a romantic relationship. Haven't you ever had it where at first, because you're really into each other, you go have these amazing dinners. You're sitting across the dinner table from each other and you're captivated by every word. You make amazing plans together and you really appreciate each other. And later what may wind up happening, funny enough, the siren's going off right at this time, this can happen in some videos. What's the negative thing that happens? You don't take each other as seriously anymore. You don't listen to each other. Your love life and romantic life is not as intimate or exciting or novel. And you really just start taking each other for granted, and there's little squabbles that happen and things start to break down. I've even seen it where I'll have a romantic partner, and what winds up happening is that my halo effect, I kind of let it slip. And as a result of letting it slip, what winds up happening is they can't see me the same way anymore. And I'll have to break up with them and allow essentially a halo effect reset. Now, what do I mean by a halo effect reset? What I mean is that when they'll later see me from afar, through my social media, maybe through my fan base, maybe it's something simpler than that you might relate to more if you don't have those things. Like maybe they see me at a party just having fun, and they see me with a fresh set of eyes yet again. And often those same people will pursue me back, and all of a sudden they'll have a fresh perspective because now they've gone out, they've seen what else is out there, and they realize that, hey, I might not be that halo effect person that they thought I was, but I've got a lot going for me that maybe they appreciate. And it is unfortunate, I've had it with people that I've worked with where we do have to take time apart in order to appreciate what it is that we're missing to let that halo effect reset. So ask yourself, if the halo effect is that important, are you taking it seriously? Are you maintaining it? And are you engaging with people for whom you have that respect and who they have that respect for you? But see, here's what I want to wrap with. In effect, yes, it is important to have that halo effect, but like I've said, it's also important to have real value. And ultimately, for the people who you go really far with, the people who you really deeply engage with, while you want to be maintaining that halo effect really on an ongoing basis permanently, there does have to be a transition point to where they can see the real value, and they have enough appreciation for that real value that real value in and of itself, not just social proof or the way you carry yourself or being electric or your subcommunication, body language, eye contact, self-amusement, there does have to be a point where you can make yourself vulnerable, and they do see a value beyond that, a synergy that you can create together beyond that, a value in engaging with each other beyond that, to where they're seeing you on the deepest level, at the core of who you are, and having an even greater halo effect. Is that possible? That is the question, and that is how I want to wrap up. So we're gonna wrap with the ultimate question that I think anybody would have. Now that is, can you get to the point where you'd have a halo effect, but with those yuck friends who you could be completely vulnerable around? Can you get to the point where someone completely focuses on you just by you making no effort to create a halo effect at all? Wouldn't that be great? Well, actually, you can, but it's just not something that you should necessarily lead with off the bat. Now, let me explain it like this. A buddy of mine, he's into video production, and what he said to me was that when he was first watching movies, they really drew him in. Wow, look at that movie, it's amazing, it would just suck him in. But later he got involved with movie production. And when he saw what went on behind the scenes in movie production, he realized, oh wow, I'm watching the movie and I can see where they would have maybe done the selective focus the wrong way, or maybe they would have done the lighting and they could have done the lighting in a different way, or the shots stuck there a little bit too long, or the acting was a little bit wooden, and it kind of took him out of it a little bit, right? In effect, his halo effect wound up getting evaporated because he saw behind the scenes. And once you see behind the scenes, you're gonna see it in a different way. If you've been involved in movie production, there's no way you're gonna look at it the same way. I remember I went to this place called Sabi Sands in South Africa. I went on a South African safari. It was amazing, by the way. It's near Kruger Park in South Africa. And there was this beautiful front of this incredible resort, but on the final day, we wanted to tip all the people who made this beautiful face of the resort that I was experiencing. And I went behind the scenes into the back kitchen area and into their quarters, and it was completely different than what I'd seen on the surface. It was so crazy just seeing what goes on behind the scenes. It's like if you have an attractive partner and, you know, they shave their legs and they shave their armpits and they do their hair and they do their makeup, and you see what goes into it, you're probably gonna see them in a different way. Now, here's what's funny about that. Initially, once you understand what goes on behind the scenes, you might feel a little bit disillusioned. But if you can get to the point where you have a full understanding of what, and here's the key, just try to follow me here. If you can have a full understanding of what is realistically possible, and here's the key, what something really takes to accomplish, like what it actually takes to accomplish something, not the fantasy, this delusional halo world, but if you actually understand what it takes to create that, you can see that you can see something and experience it on a totally different level. So let's give an example. Let's use the movie example. Initially, you'd start producing movies and it would lower your opinion of the movies because it kind of takes you out of the experience. The magic's gone. But eventually, if you came to understand movie making well enough, you'd have an entirely different view. And your view of that movie would be, if it was well made at least, would be, wow, even though I'm not in it in the same way that I would have been initially, the skill that went into this is crazy. You'd have a greater appreciation for the highest levels of what goes into something. So likewise, if you can surround yourself with friends or partners who actually get it, what it takes to put together the amazing person that you are, the amazing value that you have to offer, if you can surround yourself with people like that really get it, you don't need to maintain the halo effect anymore, because if you're truly a quality person, they will appreciate that. Now again, there's only a certain type of person that can really appreciate you, and that's somebody who really gets it. Let me give a simple example there. If I have a significant other, and I'm gonna bring my significant other around a bunch of my friends, if it's one of my friends who's never dated someone who's very attractive, and my significant other is not dolled up, I know that my friend is going to judge my partner. I know that. Okay, so I've got an incredible significant other, and I've got a buddy who's never dated someone who's attractive. If they don't doll up, my friend will be like, oh, you're not dating someone who's that attractive. But if it's a buddy of mine who's dated people who are very attractive, they know what someone looks like without makeup. They know that. Like, yeah, like someone who's actually had experience in life and romantic experience, when they know that, guess what? They know what someone looks like with makeup on and makeup off. So if it's one of my buddies that's dated a lot of people and a lot of attractive people, I don't care if my partner's dolled up or not, because they know what someone's supposed to look like. They know that, right? I would ask you right now, pick any celebrity, go to a search engine and look up that celebrity name without makeup. Go do that without makeup. And look how different it looks. To you, if you've never dated someone who's attractive, you probably think they look unattractive. You probably think they look ugly. To me, because I've dated people who are attractive, I look at that, and to me, that looks absolutely normal. In fact, I might appreciate them even more for what they look like naturally, but only someone who's in the know can appreciate that natural look. Otherwise, people that are just kind of not really that high status, never really date anybody, all that they can handle is that halo effect, or their brain's like, oh, bad, ugh. So in effect, around high quality people, you actually don't need to maintain the halo effect quite as much, and around lower quality people, which is in effect what you call the masses, you're more inclined to maintain that halo effect. But see, here's the problem there. Then when we make that distinction, it becomes this either or. For quality, you don't worry about anything, you just fart all over the place, and for low quality, you gotta put on an act. No, that's not it either. The truth is always in the middle. Okay, even my yuck friends, sometimes we'll go out to some cool restaurant and I'll be dressed in my cool clothes and I'll kind of put on like a really engaged sort of catching up with them in a fun way so that they can feel engaged with. You got it? Even if I have an amazing significant other who can see my real value, I'll still take him out from time to time and bring him out to some party where I'm the center of attention, or I'll bring them to my event and let them see me shining. Likewise, it's a benefit for me to see them and all the attention they're getting, and for me to be reminded of what they look like at their best, to have a little reminder put in there. So keep that in mind as well. Now, ultimately, when you're communicating with most people are seeing things through almost like this kind of trance. Right? The typical paradigm that most people have is that there's the haves and the have-nots. It's like the Kardashians paradigm. Like, there's these Kardashians or the royalty. Like, basically in America, the royal family is the Kardashians. And in Britain, the royal family is like, the royal family, William and Harry and all that, right? So why does the royal family exist? Or why do we have some random royal family in a reality show? That actually affirms the paradigm that most people have. And so what they do is they just put on this halo effect, and it feeds most people's paradigm. So for people who require that, simply play to that paradigm. Simple. And for people who may want to go further and deeper with you, allow people into your life who can recognize you for the actual value you have, where you don't have to have that. But again, there's always those little reminders and those little moments. Don't get to the point where you're making it an excuse to be lazy, like, well, you should just know the real me, warts and all. You've got to also handle your own business. You've got to ultimately sweep your own porch. So I hope we've come to a sort of a middle ground here, right? There's definitely going to be those people, either so let's put in a category. Your yuck friends, I call it. I'm calling it yuck friends again and again to hammer the point that these are people that accept you no matter what. It's in effect, they're your friends because of a shared history or because they're your ancestors. It's either your parents, your grandparents, your aunt, people who you grew up with, so you just have so many shared experiences, or just random people who you just have a sort of an understanding with, that you could just be like sitting on the couch in your underwear farting and drooling, and they love you anyway. That's one category of friends. What is that category of friends? Simple. That's the category where you're not expecting them to give you any money. You're not expecting them to mate with you. You're not expecting them to forego other opportunities to be around you. So it's just called chilling. They're just chilling friends. They're fun time friends. That's it. Then you have people in your life for whom there's an exchange of value, and that's where the halo effect comes in. And then there's those rare people at an even higher level where it's a hybrid of those two, where because you have true value to offer, and in many of these videos we talk about how to cultivate true value. Remember, this is a video about the halo effect, but we have many videos talking about how to cultivate true, deep value inherently. And for those people who are capable of seeing what true value is, you can have that middle ground, and that's going to be your tight inner circle, okay? Yuck friends, regular halo effect people, tight inner circle of people that can actually really see the value. And like I said, though, with that last group, it is still always a middle ground. Now, look, in accepting this, my life has got so much better, so much easier. The reason why this stuff frustrated me before was I just didn't know how to do it. It scared me. It just freaked me out, and I get that. And if this freaks you out and you bemoan it, I understand. I love you so much. I make this video out of love for you. And what I say to you is, I get it, all the challenges that you have with it. I get your fears. I get your frustrations. I've been there. And this is something to create an optimism. It's to create a desire for you to offer more to humanity. It's a calling to you to have more empathy for your fellow human beings. It's a call for you to see reality more objectively. It's a call for you to reap the benefits of having empathy for other people and seeing reality objectively. And when you do this, I know you're gonna be so much happier. I know how much happier I was once I understood this. And I'm here sharing with you in a transparent way. Why? Because I view you as one of those people that's part of my inner circle, and I can talk to you about that halo effect openly, and I can tell you about it, and I believe that if you're watching this kind of content, that you are a quality person, and I want you as a part of my inner circle. I view you at that highest level. I believe in you, I have faith in you, and I want to work with you synergistically to get to our potential and to get to where we want to go. So that's the message I want to leave to you out of love for you. I hope you can let it on board. Hope you let it sink in. Hope you take action. Hope you change your life. I know you will. And this is me wrapping up my time here in Chicago. So thanks so much for being a part of this journey with me. We've got a lot more to come, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.
And the light started to burn.